Charles, welcome to post-constitutional America, where anybody they don't like is guilty the instant they decide they are.
I actually think that's happening in America, but our viewers can see that you have made an extraordinary sacrifice, fired up your private jet, and here we are in downtown Penang.
Oh, it looks like the High Line, very similar.
It's amazing, they copied it.
Someone's abandoned a child here.
Let's just let her go. Sorry.
I can't believe people are that
They're not second child.
disinterested
No.
in their own child in the middle of New York City. It's a very dangerous and foolish way.
Just let him alone.
I'm not going to say a word to the guy.
Anyway, the decision by an activist fake judge. I mean, he's not even a full judge, right? I mean,
What do you mean?
There was a story that he was plucked from obscurity as some kind of, I forget what his exact title is, but he is not a normal judge.
That's clear.
And he obviously doesn't have the type of training that you need in the law. And the precedent that he set with this decision is outrageous, and I don't see how it easily gets overturned, even with a Supreme Court decision, because what is happening now is that the Trump campaign has suffered a momentum setback. They've raised a lot of money, but now people have to worry until July 11th what's going to happen. That doesn't give you a lot of time to put together a robust suite of, right? You can't necessarily plan that easily. Is he going to be in jail? Is he not going to be in jail? And beyond that, there are how many district attorneys across the
Hundreds.
country? I think there are thousands.
Yeah, that might be right.
And so,
It's because it's by county, right?
right, there are over 3,000 counties.
Yeah,
and,
it's a lot.
And so, will other district attorneys be emboldened by this
Of course.
to do
why
exactly
wouldn't
the same thing? And might they do it from the conservative side against progressives? I mean, if ever there were a need for not only sweeping and really 9-zip Supreme Court opinion, if ever there were a need for it, it's in this case. And beyond that, there needs to be legislation.
Yeah.
It says you cannot, I mean, there's some very, I'm not a lawyer, but reading what people have written, there's some profound issues that involve or include whether a state district attorney or a city district attorney can decide to prosecute federal election law and federal
They can't.
IRS
It's
law.
outside of their jurisdiction.
It's ridiculous. I know. But of course,
It's like me prosecuting Alvin Bragg. It's like, by what authority?
right. And so, as first Kevin O'Leary said, and then this guy John Katzimatidis, who, he's, if you ever see him on television, he should probably stick to radio. But
I haven't seen him.
he's Jabba the Hutt's,
Looking good.
Yeah, he's a little bit on the heavy side and a little sloppy. But the point is, he's a very successful businessman. He's got a lot of interest in and around New York City and state, including Gristedes, I think various oil interests and stuff like that. And he's saying, with this decision, you can't continue to invest capital in New York City and state. And he's right.
Just too dangerous, too high risk.
It's incredibly high risk.
It's a wild card. They could just do whatever they want at any time.
Right, and so it's not.
But so why does this all make you feel like it's going to be difficult to be overturned by the Supreme Court? It's a bold violation of Donald Trump's due process rights.
Well, I think in the case of, 3 of the 9 justices have already said they're recusing themselves from certain election-related.
What?
The progressives are, yeah. So if you have.
Why are they doing that?
I don't know. Maybe they have conflicts. I don't know why they're doing it, but you really do need, and in contrast, the recent 9-zip decision in favor of the NRA that I think was litigated on behalf, the NRA's counsel was the ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union, which is actually a nice thing to see.
Wait, the IRA or the NRA?
NRA.
NRA.
Yeah, that New York State.
That was Letitia James.
Had illegally clamped down on the First Amendment rights of gun owners. And that was encouraging, though, to see that it was a 9-0 decision, drafted in theory by Sotomayor, the wise Latina, or her staff, or both. That was a good thing to see, but this latest decision is not good and for the country. And it's actually not good for Democrats, because the fundraising total that I just saw before we started was over 70 million now.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of money in several days.
Did you see him at the fights
I
last
did.
night?
Oh, I saw a story about it. Yeah.
I mean, it was like he was the champion walking in and everybody was rooting for
Right,
him.
well, Americans love that story, the come from behind victory. And it's not as if we have in President Dunderhead, President Gaslighter, somebody who on a daily basis is covering himself with glory. I mean, the shit is, the diarrhea and shit and vomit is so heavily plastered on this guy that nobody wants to go in the same room with him, right? I mean, he's a disaster.
Yeah, he is.
Everything he touches turns to excrement.
Well, and Charles, we're going to have a lot of gaslighting to discuss once we get to the First Amendment Forum. People are going to be able to join us there in just about 25 minutes on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com, and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Odyssey has reached 3,000 subscribers.
That's very good.
That is, thank you. And thank you to everyone who has subscribed on Odyssey. It's actually totally free to subscribe. And I recommend that even if people don't want to sponsor the show, they should subscribe on Odyssey. It's become the largest repository of Crowdsource the Truth legacy content on the internet. And you can also sponsor the show. It's the most economical way to do it for only $3 a month, plus a 58-cent Odyssey fee. And Odyssey still has their new censorship-resistant decentralized technology coming soon. So it's a great platform for people to support. There have also been a lot of people joining and supporting on X. And they just announced something, Charles. I don't know if this is true or not, but they said that X is going to, like anybody who wants to monetize their X account is going to have to give them like biometric data and stuff.
And to make sure that it's actually you doing the
I guess so, and that's, I understand it from one standpoint, but I still don't trust X or Elon Musk, and I'm not going to be giving them biometric data. They still haven't allowed me to accept subscribers on X, so I'm really not able to put the sponsor exclusive content on there. But I will use the platform to tell people that they can access that content on Odyssey and other places. And in addition to Joe Biden gaslighting people, I don't know if you've been watching Dershowitz, but he is a super expert gaslighter, and gaslighting is an important part of lawfare.
What is gaslighting, actually? You should explain
Gaslighting term comes from, I think, a movie where a guy was trying to make his wife go crazy, and he kept turning down the gaslight, and she was like, hey, is it dark in here? He's like, no, I think something's wrong with you. And he kept making it darker and trying to convince her that it wasn't darker and to drive her crazy. So it's sort of the same thing as stipulating reality. It's when you tell someone, oh yeah, this legal process that it's like charcoal, it's like pretzels.
It's disgusting. Burn. No, actually gaslighting, I think, is accusing somebody of doing exactly what you're doing.
That's projecting. Gaslighting is when it's basically urinating on somebody and telling them it's raining.
Okay.
Gaslighting is stipulating reality. When I tell you, anybody who says that this was a rigged legal process against Donald Trump is un-American, that's gaslighting. Because then idiots who haven't paid any attention to what has gone on in court can go around and say, well, Joe Biden said it was a fair process, so it was. This was the determination made by the court. He was before a jury, so it was fair.
Yeah, and Biden's comment that Donald Trump had every opportunity to defend himself.
That's gaslighting.
That just proves to me the stories. Biden said at one point in the 87, 88 time frame that he was a top student in college and law school.
That's just lying.
That's just bold-faced lying. I mean, to say that Donald Trump had every opportunity to defend himself is preposterous.
Right.
And then there was an interesting piece by the great Clarice Feldman in the American Thinker this morning where she pointed out that this asshole Bragg has sued Donald Trump 100 times, 100 different times. Yep, different matters, she said.
Wow.
And in addition, that under his tenure, felony charges have been converted to misdemeanors in 60% of all cases. This is the only example of a misdemeanor, and arguably not really a misdemeanor, because the statute had lapsed, and they're trying to prosecute federal crimes in state court. But this is an example the only example in New York of a misdemeanor being converted into 34 felonies. So this is outrageous kind of stuff.
Totally illegal. And you just actually segued to the gaslighting that I wanted to talk about, which is far more sophisticated from a far more intelligent but equally sinister individual. I'm talking about Alan Dershowitz, and I think a lot of people, even people who watch Crowdsource the Truth and have seen my disdain for Dershowitz evolve over time as he's done certain specific things that involve lying to and about me. He is very sophisticated in his gaslighting and his lawfare because he's done a couple things in this trial that are rather important. You might recall the day that Costello was testifying, I would argue perhaps the most important day of the trial. Dershowitz was there.
And he shouldn't have stayed in the court.
Well, whether he should or shouldn't have is a matter of, I guess, subjectivity, objectivity. It's up to the person to decide if he should or shouldn't have. But I do believe he deceived the judge.
Right.
And he did that because, you see, in other words, he wasn't just sitting in the gallery with all the other people and the reporters.
Right.
He was sitting right next to Alina Habba, obviously with Trump's legal team. And I don't think there's going to be a jurist or even a lawyer in New York who doesn't know who Alan Dershowitz is.
Right.
And
they would have assumed he was on the team.
Exactly. He has previously represented Donald Trump, and if he's sitting with Trump's lawyers, it would be a very reasonable presumption to think, here's another of Trump's lawyers who's here today on this very important day. So he sort of insinuated himself in there in a way that was pretty dishonest toward the judge, the public, and anybody who would have been observing, and then he's gone and made public commentary. Now, I might like it that he did that, but it doesn't change the fact that that's how the guy operates. He tricks people, he lies about things, but he's doing something far worse right now, Charles. I don't know. Well, so he's going around the news and he's doing lots of commentary, almost, I think, more than Alina Habba. Alina Habba does not have her own nightly podcast where she lays out her ideas and her strategies, and obviously any Trump attorney, any Trump adversary can watch that. This is some new stuff. Should we look at it?
I hope they didn't pay it. I'm going to just throw something out there first.
Okay, sure. But I want to tell you the rest of that. What the hell is this?
I sincerely hope this was donated.
What is this?
3D, I think.
Well, it is in that it's a sculpture. But I thought it was that Senor Wences, you know, that guy who had the little puppet where he painted a face on his hand and he would go on to, what does it say? Tishman Sue? Car body, what is this? Car, grass, screen, oh, this is something to do with a car? I don't know. But anyway, back to Dershowitz, Charles. Here's what he's doing that's quite sinister. He's presenting himself. He always wants to play both sides of the fence. That seems to be something he does a lot. And what he's doing now is he's saying, I'm a lifelong Democrat and I'm a liberal and all my Democrat friends hate me, so I become something of a sympathetic figure to people on the right, particularly because I'm defending Trump, and I'm the best kind of defender of Trump because I didn't vote for Trump, I don't like Trump, but this is against the law. So he's establishing why you should trust him, or actually he's deceiving people into thinking they should trust him. And then he's coming out and he's saying, there's no misdemeanor here because paying the hooker was legal. So he begins with the foregone conclusion that, of course, Donald Trump did this reprehensible thing that they want you to believe that he did. He cheated on his wife. He can't be believed.
Right.
He's having sex with hookers and porn stars and whatever she is, and she's reprehensible and all this stuff. When in actual fact,
that has not been established.
that is not what happened. The thing that needs to be defended is that Michael Cohen made this whole entire thing up and paid her to entrap Trump. And Dershowitz is still protecting that. That is an FBI scheme that needs to be the focus of people's attention because it's quite clear that that's what happened. And when people like Dershowitz get out front, this is a catch and kill of that. And it's the same thing that he did when I had that interview with him where he said the government could vaccinate you, and then he realized, oh, whoops, I shouldn't have said all that stuff about Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein and the Clinton Foundation and Linda Rothschild. Let's bury this and let's destroy Jason so that nobody can ever hear this again.
Yeah. Can we go around here further or no?
I think
it
that's
ends.
the last set of stairs.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. If we want to go down to, yeah, that's the last set of stairs up here.
I think we should go down further.
Yeah, but
Okay.
we got to go downstairs here. Yeah. Well, so what do you think of that, Charles? Dershowitz being underhanded like that.
It's not a surprise.
But so many people have adopted this, you know, just like, okay, obviously Russia hacked, they've adopted, which is false. And they're saying obviously Donald Trump had sex with the porn star, which is false. And they got what they wanted in that they're already calling him a felon and, you know, these countries that he can't go to and everything.
It's outrageous. Actually, on the good news front, Trump appeared on Fox and Friends Weekend.
Oh.
And there's a clip of him, some person I didn't recognize who works for Fox said, you know, this is an egregious double standard. They didn't really go after the Clinton Foundation. And Trump initially just let it slide, and then he went back to it. He said, you know, you're right. They didn't.
How is he
Go
not
after-
thinking about that?
I don't know. Well, you know, if you bring up foundations, then they can go and talk about the Trump Foundation. You want a hat?
No, thanks.
I think you'd look good in one of those green pork pie hats.
But, I mean, it seems like something that Trump should be pretty dialed into. You're saying he doesn't want to bring it up because
He
they'll
may
bring
not. He may not want to bring it up because, you know, they can always go back and say it's a standard Irish compromise. Yes, the Clinton Foundation's bad, but you had to pay $20 million and shut down your
But
foundation.
isn't that nothing compared to the Clintons?
I
it's
know,
just
but
more.
that's the way these weasels work.
But Trump's not going to think that, right? Wouldn't he just think, oh, you know, more double standard?
I guess I wish he'd gone after the Clinton Foundation when he could have. It was November. I saw the story. It was fed to me recently. It was November 23rd, 2016, where he was quoted as saying, "We are not going to go after the Clinton Foundation."
Yeah, that was bad. That was a major disappointment.
Yeah.
And now here's a dog having coffee. Is this a whippet? Oh, what is it?
Italian Greyhound.
Oh, it is a greyhound. See, I can never tell the difference between a greyhound and a whippet. Beautiful dog. Have a nice coffee.
With your dog.
Yeah, how do you tell a whippet from a greyhound?
You hire McKinsey.
Right. I think they're pretty kind of hyperactive dogs.
I think we should probably stay in here because down there is,
Too noisy.
unless you want to go to Hudson.
We can go wherever you want,
Well,
Charles.
why don't we go up one? This is kind of boring. We go up one here and down Hudson.
Sure.
A lot of action. This, though, to give people a sense of New York, this is much, much nicer than New York was 25, 30 years ago.
This building.
The whole area here.
Right. This was revitalized kind of late 90s, early 2000s. Right?
Yeah, yeah. It used to be primarily derelict warehouses, but now, you know, people have sunk a lot of money into buildings. That's probably a rental, I would guess. That's probably a condo.
But you've got a lot of kind of like high-end shopping and
yeah.
restaurants and residences down here now.
Oh yeah, super high end. Europeans and foreigners like it because you're not too far away from a river view. And some of these buildings have very high ceilings. You know,
Mark Levin has been very vocal about trying to
Oh,
get
God.
the Supreme Court involved.
he's smart. But the important thing for the moment is I think Trump has boosted his standing with people, among people who in the past would have voted for Biden. They're not going to vote for Biden. I mean, I think the Biden team, the hordes, the 80 million voters, you know, of the 80 million voters for Biden last time, or whatever the number was, I would guess that as many as perhaps 10 are not going to vote, 10 million for Biden, maybe more.
It's interesting that you bring that up because I saw on, I don't remember if it was TMZ or the Art of Dialogue, and Art of Dialogue focuses on interviewing like hip hop people. They're very big on all the, I started
People
following
like
them.
me.
Like who?
Me?
Yeah, it's a lot of articles about you and P. Diddy.
Not
That's
in the same article at all.
That's how I started following it.
Yeah.
But the point is, they had some rapper interviewed who said that he doesn't mind that Trump had to pay his side piece. So it strikes me that that's the story that they want. Dershowitz is out there pushing the alternate story, and he's gaslighting in that. And even this guy, whether he knows it or not, I forget who the rapper was, but by pushing that story that, yeah, of course Trump paid his side hoe, it's scummy, but it's not illegal, they just want whatever negative smear campaign they can get on Trump, so that even if this gets overturned, then they'll spend forever explaining to you how he's dishonest to his own wife.
Right.
You can't trust him.
Yeah, but with that whole thing, remember that the payment that was made was only put into the books for 2016 during 2017. Right, the accounting for it did not become formal until the audit was completed for the Trump Organization in 2017. So the argument that the books, the business records of the Trump Organization were illegally tampered with is completely bogus.
That's what I mean. There is nothing here. So, defending that, he made this payment because it was legal.
Right.
No, he didn't even make it. Michael Cohen made it. Nobody has connected Trump to this business ledger at all. The one guy who could is in jail, and the judge failed to inform the jury in his jury instructions that you should take that as an inference that what he had to say was helpful to the defendant and harmful to the prosecution's case. That's why they didn't give him immunity and get him out of jail. But the judge didn't say that. The judge said, you can choose from these 3 other crimes that elevate this thing to a felony, and 4 of you could choose one, 4 of you could choose another, and 4 of you could choose another. It's just such a made up, it's like playing Monopoly with a 5-year-old, and they're making up the rules as they lose to allow themselves to win.
Well, and contrast that as well, we didn't get into this as much as we should have with Bill Clinton. The Paula Jones case had legs, as it were, before the 1996 election, but Bob Bennett, one of the lawyers who was brought in to help defend Bill Clinton, bragged in a book that was published that his job was to push that trial into after the election of 1996 so that it wouldn't affect the election of 1996.
Yeah.
So then they were successful in doing that, but by 1998, it became an election issue for the Democrats, which they seized upon and used to their advantage in 98. But Bill paid $850,900, or people did, $850,1998
Right.
to Paula Jones, and that's just drag a $100 bill through a trailer park and that's what you get. That's a lot more than $130,000.
Right.
And that whole episode, I mean, how much did Bennett and Williams and Connolly make in connection with defending Bill Clinton at a time when he had no money? Who was paying for all that? And how did the whole disguising Paula Jones and then standing by her man, how much of that propelled Hillary Clinton into her Senate seat and then into the first campaign for presidency and the second campaign for presidency? So, the double standard here is just to a level where I look at it and say, I'm not playing this game anymore. I'm not interested in playing this game.
There's something even deeper to what you're saying, and you've just hit on it without even necessarily knowing it. So if all of that propelled Hillary and did all this sort of stuff, it's got one sort of public-facing look, this is bad for Bill, and he's got to pay all this money or whatever. But we do need to look at what was the outcome. I mean, that would be a very important case for people who are interested in lawfare and counter lawfare. That Paula Jones case is very important to look at because it is screaming lawfare. Stephen Biss was involved, and I don't think that was a coincidence. You've just described a series of outcomes that, as unlikely as they might seem, I think that's what they want to do. They want to set a stage where one person is the protagonist, one person is the antagonist, all these characters are cast, and they have an interest in the outcome that is so far beyond the perception of the public or what is going on the surface of any particular legal action or lawsuit or whatever, that, this is what I'm talking about. Gaslighting, lawfare, all this sophisticated, complicated lying from the best known lawyers and the wealthiest people in the world. That's what's happening.
Right, and it's succeeded, in quotes, in turning the United States of America, and in particular New York City and New York State, into uninvestable locations.
Yes, because they don't care about the law. They don't care about the law. They don't care about the future. They just care about their immediate outcome and holding on to power. But Charles, we've just run up against
A hard break.
the end of our segment here. We're going to continue in the First Amendment forum. I hope people will join us on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We'll be right back in 5 minutes. Thanks for